Hi everybody, welcome back to the Keikis channel. Have you all had the chance to watch Cody's latest tea talk video? The one about eucalyptus tea? When I watched it, there was this one part and I was like, wait, what? And then Chris was haggling her off camera about it. Oh my God, you have to see it. Here it is, in case you forgot.
I haven't been sick in like 7 years, so I can't tell you if eucalyptus tea helps you when you're sick.
You were sick like yesterday.
Eucalyptus was first used by Australian Aborigines? How do you even know what that word is? Crew members on an Australian freighter actually were developing super high fevers and were able to cure their fever with, ding ding ding, eucalyptus tea.
I know, right? And then the just one ship comment? It did seem very vague, so I had to find out. Was it true? Or was it just internet lies? Spoiler, it was true. And stay tuned for the rest of this video if you need to know more about the details. All right, let's dive into this 200-year-old medical plant-powered legend. Does eucalyptus tea break dangerous fevers? And of course, you might also want to know, does it have a place in skincare? Okay, here's what I found out. Just as Chris had alluded to, and perhaps was making a little fun of, it was just one ship. Well, one ship in particular that shot eucalyptus tea into fame. Kind of. First, we need a tiny history recap to put this all into perspective. Remember, in the 1700s, the Industrial Revolution was essentially wreaking havoc on the lives and well-being of the British population. Poverty, and therefore crimes, were high. The British prisons were overwhelmed, so they routinely put their prisoners on freighters and sent them away to their new British colonies in America for, well, hard labor. It was hard work building cities from scratch. But when that pesky little tea party they had out in Boston started an international incident with Britain, they no longer wanted to send their prisoners to the Americas. Because duh, the prisoners would no doubt turn on their beloved royal country and fight for the Union. So they decided to ship them off to this new place that the fabled Captain James Cook found in 1770, what we now call Australia. Now, of course, Australia had been found many times before by other European explorers, and was currently inhabited by the local population for like the previous 60,000 years. At best guess. But see, now Britain needed it for their own selfish purposes. They decided to claim it for their prisoner overpopulation crisis. So they sent down some ships and a lot of prisoners in 1778 to start a prison colony. Okay, here's where eucalyptus tea re-enters the story. See, unlike the British Americans and the Native Americans, the Aborigines and the British convicts co-inhabited the land much more civilly than they did in the Americas. Maybe because the prisoners didn't think that they were any better than the locals, or maybe they knew they would be dead without the help of the locals. At least for the first several decades, they got along. So, the voyage from Britain to Australia took 10 months, at best, compared to just 2 months from London to the Americas. Remember, these are going to be overcrowded ships full of unhygienic situations and poor nutrition for months on end. Talk about ripe conditions for a humanitarian disaster. The official reports of the British Navy at the time estimated 15% of prisoners died during this journey on any given ship. But the ship that Cody was talking about gained special attention in the history books because in 1812, the first ghost ship arrived in Australia. It showed up on shore with nearly all aboard dead, which means all the rotting bodies would have been tossed out to sea, and the remaining crew was suffering from high fevers. Therefore, a nearly empty ship slowly and quietly arriving into port would have seemed very spooky indeed. This time, the native peoples did something different. Fearing that the ship was cursed, which it kind of was, they refused to allow the disembarkment of the survivors, in fear they would spread the curse. Instead, the natives brought herbal remedies and food to the ship, including healing teas, essentially becoming the first recorded quarantining. In the captain's written account, after the plant power interventions, all the survivors that had made it into port were miraculously healed by the teas and no further lives were lost. He later recorded that he lost nearly all his cargo, which would have been around 700 prisoners, to the fever and nearly half the crew, meaning by best historical guess, he left London roughly a year prior with about 1,000 souls aboard his ship and ended up stepping foot on Australian soil with just 40 crew members remaining. Holy moly, that was one nasty fever. But I have to admit, I love when history and plant power collide. So, fever-breaking eucalyptus tea? What does science have to say about this? Well, a lot, in fact. It is well known in the scientific community that eucalyptus oil is highly antiviral. And, as Cody alluded to, could be good for you if you get COVID. I recently found one study that set out to look at just that. And here's what they found. Eucalyptus is a broad-spectrum antiviral, meaning it stops all types of viruses from infecting human cells, and could also apply to the COVID SARS-2 virus. It works this way. It has a powerful plant terpene called eugenol, which is the secret weapon here. There's a specific chemical shape in eugenol that stops most viruses from entering the human cell. This special stopping mechanism is not targeting the spike protein like the COVID vaccine targets, which is also needed to grab onto the human cell. This is a different viral protein. Eugenol targets the protein hemagglutinin, which, like its name implies, is more like a toxic viral glue which helps dissolve human cell membranes. Okay, I think we need an analogy here. Imagine this. It would be like if the spike protein on COVID were a snake bite, sticking its spike protein fangs into you, attaching itself to its cellular prey. Then, the hemagglutinin protein would be like the snake unhinging its lower jaw and absorbing it in. The monoterpene in eucalyptus stops this unhinging, absorbing action of multiple viruses, which of course keeps the virus outside the cells, even if the spike protein attaches it. Therefore, they can't replicate further. This action was well documented and has excellent evidence in stopping the normal flu virus, influenza A. In these cases, the studies used the method of inhalation of essential oil diffusers as the best source to prevent the upper respiratory tract infection of the viral influenza A. But will it work against COVID? Well, that's what these particular scientists did some studies in petri dishes with concentrated oil and the COVID virus that they found to be quite effective. So much so that they received further funding from the National Fund of Scientific Development in Chile. Currently, they have large human trials underway testing against COVID. Pretty cool stuff. So what about the tea? Yes, it turns out that it works inside the bodies too. Studies have shown that ingesting small amounts, not oil, but ground dried up eucalyptus leaves, heals ulcers, protects intestinal lining, and can help with irritable bowel syndrome. Additionally, its same monoterpene found in eugenol is also absorbed into the bloodstream where it continues its antiviral properties, just like the inhalation studies found. And for some more eugenol fun facts, there were also multiple studies that showed it had a 50% effective rate at preventing herpes in rats, just in case you wanted to know that. This is where I have to enter the cautionary tale. Too much of a good thing is toxic. Less is more in this case, and that is because just 3.5 milliliters of this oil can be fatal. That's about the same amount that's in a cap of soda. So don't mess around with the concentrated oils. If you have those oil droppers for your diffusers, make sure you keep them away from children. This is why eucalyptus tea is made with dried ground leaves and not essential oils, and a little bit goes a long way. The safe amount to drink is 1/2 teaspoon of ground dried up leaves to 2 cups of hot water. That's it. Maximum daily dose. That's all you need to experience the amazing plant power of eucalyptus. So there you have it. The power of eucalyptus probably cured a 200-year-old viral mystery. And we're out of time, so you'll have to stay tuned for my upcoming plant power highlight on eucalyptus to see how it helps with pain and why it's one of the star ingredients in my natural pain relief cream. All right, take care. Bye for now.